right? Like, I think that's a thing. God, I'm going to be so... I mean, it sounds okay. I wish I had headphones. I'm going to be so mad if we do this whole thing. And then it's like, oh, it sounds like shit.
Curse of the leprechaun is upon us.
I know.
How do you break that? Like, besides, I don't know. Neither of us stole gold. Nothing.
No, I just signed up for more than I can handle. It's my fault, dear listeners. I'm the leprechaun. I am Irish, and I do have red hair.
You don't have a penchant for counting money, though.
No, but I do like causing mischief.
That's true. You got that chaotic raccoon vibe.
Yeah, I got goblin energy.
I have felt very Midwestern lately because when I had a pie bake-off, and when I was participating in a pie bake-off, somebody brought cookies to a pie bake-off. And while I appreciated the sentiment, I was like, it's a pie bake-off. Where's your pie? Store-bought's pie is better than like a different
if you can't
dessert.
make your own, store-bought is fine.
Yeah. And then I also was like questioning. I was watching this video on Instagram, and it was this Southern guy asking the meaning of ope, and like, how is ope used? Can Southerners use ope? I'm like, sure, why not? I don't have a problem with that. And then they're like, do you use ope as like a, oh, sorry, or do you use ope as like an exclamation? I'm like, it's everything. You use it for a little bit of everything. It's an exclamation. You put it in front of the sorry usually, like, oh.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it, because you wouldn't just be like, oh, and leave it. You would always follow it up with something. So it's definitely like an interjection or an interrupter.
But I'm like, it's a tone too. Like, it's when you say ope, there's usually I don't know, an implication of.
It's like polite surprise expression.
I would say, and then I thought about when we both oped at the same time.
Oh, that little kid that fell in front of us, and we literally both went, whoop.
So I was just like,
see, it's really funny because it's not the same as like John is like a Philly thing, but John is like Jawn, not like the man's name, Jawn. It's not like it's not an expression of surprise, but it is like a catch-all term of like things or places or like happenings.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know, it's a very like regional specific word, but it is used entirely differently.
Well, and then I just think about too the Eminem song where I always thought it was, oh, there goes gravity. And I was like, wait, it's not ope? And I was like, he's from Michigan. Of course it's ope.
No, it's just a very abrupt oh.
I always thought it was ope. And I'm like, you can't tell me otherwise. That's how I've sang it / rapped it.
It wouldn't be like Mom's spaghetti then. It'd be like Mom's pierogies. Vomit on his sweater already. Mom's pierogi.
Doesn't quite have the same.
Because there's no T's.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, God. At my show Friday night, the way the dude died was electrocution. And it took me until the words came out of my mouth to make a rhyme work for it. And even then, it was a reach. And we ended on dyslexic fusion.
Oh, man.
I don't feel like a human right now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I forgot. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? Like, we haven't been here for so long to record that I like feel like I forgot how to do this. And then today I drove through every single type of weather in season.
Yeah.
In just my morning.
For Northeast Ohio, oh, shoot. You'll edit this out.
They know we're from Northeast Ohio.
Okay. Well, yeah, for Ohio, we literally on St. Patrick's Day, because, we're recording on this beautiful holiday, we've gotten the gamut of weather. So,
yeah, I left my house this morning. I had an event I had to go to, and it was like so sunny. I had to find my sunglasses.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I could like turn like, you know, it doesn't have to be like blasting the hot air. Like I can turn it down a little bit. And then I got to the place and I was sweating my boobs off because of the nature of where I was at. And then I get in my car and it's snowing. And it's like terrible,
like vortex
like
snow,
sleety, wet, chunky snow that you couldn't see through. And then I drove like 20 minutes further and the sun was back out again. And then it was like a sun shower where it was bright sun, but it was pouring down rain.
I checked the weather app and it said light rain. And I looked outside and it was like the wind was making the snow go sideways. And I went,
Yeah.
It's not accurate weather. What are you doing?
I drive a pretty small, low car, and it was blowing me all over the highway.
And I was just like, once again, weatherman, I'd like to be paid to be as accurate as you are. Just saying. That would be nice. Except in our line of work, that's actually not good.
Yeah.
It'd be like telling children, Pluto's still a planet. Actually, I feel like that's debatable.
Example.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be like, hey, I need to know about ancient Egypt. And I'd be like, great, here's a book on ancient Greece.
Yes, there you go.
Enjoy your book report.
You need what Bernstein Bears book? Here's a Clifford book. It's like same difference. Dogs, bears, same difference.
A lot less Jesus.
Lot less Jesus. I didn't realize they were so Jesus-y. I don't remember them being that way in our childhood.
That was like how I was rewarded growing up, is like if I got good grades on my report card, I got the newest Berenstain Bears book. So I was aware of the Jesus.
I just remember like the too much junk food and all
Get
that
the
fun
gimmies.
stuff. Yeah.
Get the gimmies was like my go-to.
And then the trick or treat one was good. It was kind of, and then the neighbor one where it had like the scary looking old lady bear on the cover.
Yeah.
Don't talk to strangers. That's what it was.
Do you remember Berenstain Bearland at Cedar Point?
Vaguely.
It was I mean, it was super cool for being a kid, but then they had this like tree house that was it had a slide in it, and it was like the big attraction in that area. So it was a huge tree, and then there was like scenes inside the tree house that you looked at as you were climbing up the stairs to go down the slide. But it was like bigger than all the buildings around it. Like that's how high up you had to go to ride the slide down. And it was so scary inside. Like I don't know.
You're like unearthing a very repressed childhood memory right
now.
there
was like a scene. There was like an alligator down below, and then there were like creepy birds above you. And I don't really understand what that was supposed to be from, but I just remember I was like always too afraid to go in it.
We were Geauga Lake kids rather than a Cedar Point family, but I think I had to have gone to Cedar Point at least once or twice in my wee childhood.
Yeah, I think the only reason we were able to go to Cedar Point is because my uncle was like the guy who serviced their Xerox machines. So he got like free tickets or like discount family stuff. Yeah. So that was like the only way my aunt that her husband, that was like the only way we could go.
I just want to circle back to Don't Feel Human. I was talking to a fellow coworker who was like, this is great. I'm having such a good, and I went, oh yeah, and I'm just in it right now. We've been very, very busy at the library, believe it or not.
Everybody's got the spring squirrelies.
And yes, on top of just our normal workload, we have, I would say, an expanded workload, and then we have people who are just, I don't know how to describe it except spring squirrelies. They are just a little squirrely. They come in and they cause a ruckus, and like you got the youths who are causing a scene and pushing buttons and stuff like that. And then you got people who need like all of your attention. And then you're like, okay, I waited on this person. And then the next person comes up and they too need all of your attention. And you're like, okay, I will get the other work I'm supposed to get done sometime, and then you have no time. And that's rinse and repeat every day this past week.
Yeah. And then I got yelled at.
Yeah.
On my way to my car. I got accosted.
Yes.
That was really fun.
Yes.
That's sarcasm, folks.
So yeah, I'm kind of ready for it to be, I don't know. I'm waiting for something to kick in to like relieve us of the spring squirrelies, but I don't
think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just going to go straight from spring squirrelies into summer reading bullshit. I like summer reading. It's never just summer reading. It's always like, here's the summer reading that's supposed to be nice, and here's 15 things that have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah. Hello. Welcome to the Lake Erie Library.
Hi. Hello. We're fine here. How are you?
Why do I feel like every time we're like, hello, it's always the same. It's always the same. It's just us as Han Solo in costumes all the time.
I don't know. Maybe we just stop saying hello. Maybe we just like throw it right at them. Like we start talking and then we're just like, boom, here's the topic. Did y'all buckle up? Great. If not, you've just been thrown from the podcast car. Deal with it.
I feel like we Midwestern introduce it all the time. Like, we're just like, woo!
We for sure Midwest goodbye every episode. Like, I wrap it up and then you reiterate what I just said and then add something else and wrap it up. And then I like put a button on it and then you add something else. And then we're like, oh no, we didn't thank the spooky sponsor. And then we do that. And then like we start from the beginning again. And then all of a sudden it's over.
Oh God. Do you feel like talking about crime? I've been thinking about crime lately.
I feel like doing crimes.
Man, just the cost of like everything's too damn high right now.
So expensive.
I just love.
Were you the one that told me they're smuggling cocaine and avocados?
Yes,
now?
I was. I like interrupted your break to tell you because I was so flabbergasted at this information that I found out.
Yeah.
I watched them on Instagram cut through an avocado and like so carefully, and then like this like very intact bag of cocaine, and I'm like
where the pit was?
Yes. And I'm just like, how did they do that? Like how do
you get a full avocado skin off? Like in one piece, because that's how you'd have to do it to like slide it back on.
I don't know. I have so many questions. I'm like, did you grow the avocado around the cocaine? How did you do this?
No, because then it would be like inside the pit.
Yeah, it was. There was no pit. It was cocaine where the pit should have been. And it was.
Have you seen that meme where it's like, because you know, like Kinder eggs have like toys inside of them.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh man, another wooden ball inside the avocados.
Like, how do I explain? It's like they cut it, and like where the pit was supposed to be was this bag of cocaine. The cocaine was bigger than the pit. Like, you know, pit's like yay big, and then the cocaine was probably twice as big, but the avocado was like a normal size avocado.
An 8-ball.
Yeah. And they would like carefully cut around, like they had to cut the outside of the avocado, and then there was still a little bit of the avocado around it. And then I was like, if the cocaine is sealed, is the avocado still good to eat?
I just feel,
or are you gonna get super high?
Like the worst possible high you could ever have would be from like avocado toast that had cocaine in it. Like, I just feel like that is setting yourself up for failure.
You're not supposed to ingest cocaine, right? I don't know.
People rub it on their gums.
Oh, that's true.
And you snort it. Like, that's how you do coke.
It would be the tingliest avocado toast you've ever tasted.
You'd like eat avocado toast and then like clean your entire house. Like, you'd be like huffing oven cleaner as you were cleaning. It'd be like Gail when she's like, nobody can know we live here. Put away the chairs. No one can know we sit.
It's one of my favorite, like,
videos. What is this? A hand towel? We need tea towels. It's too late. It's too late. Pack your bags.
Oh,
like,
God.
I think that is what would happen if you ate that avocado.
Yeah.
So avocado.
So I just have more questions than answers. Like, I was like, I'm very intrigued, but how did you guys know to check the avocados for cocaine? 2, like, obviously I'm assuming some dogs were involved, but 2, like, how did they put the cocaine in the avocado without disturbing the avocado?
He's not even cutting it like the normal way. He's cutting it like around the equator of it.
That's probably why it takes him so long to you see how massive this thing of like cocaine is, though?
I mean, yes, that's definitely bigger than like a norm. There's like no avocado to it. It's just like a pit with a tiny bit of flesh.
You're scraping it off to make your avocado toast.
Yeah. It's like the size of a lemon.
Yeah. Inside an avocado.
Oh my God, it's like the really bad version of a turducken. It's like a Coke Lamato.
Coke Lamato. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like in there. It's like not. Oh, it's in a bag. Okay.
Yeah, it's in a bag.
I saw he's cutting it with a knife, and I see Coke like flying out in a cloud. So I was like, oh, it's just like loose Coke.
Kind of weird that he's like cutting it, but you know, for the sake of the video, like I guess he's got to prove that it's cocaine or whatever. But like, weird.
Jesus. It's like was it Quirky Romano when he like the cocaine explodes in his face?
Oh.
I think so. I think that was what happened in that.
So yeah, price of groceries too high. We accidentally got on cocaine avocados.
Listen, cocaine looks like sugar. There was the sugar war in Cleveland, which was tied to the crime families, which brings us up to speed. Nailed it.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about some crime. Not crime that we've done personally, because that would be really dumb to be airing on a podcast.
For legal reasons, literally everything I say is a joke.
But today we are going to talk about the life and death of Danny Greene. For those of
and all the other shit in between.
And all the other stuff in between. For those of you who don't know who Danny Greene is, I mean, I guess you could Google it right now, or you can just listen to this, like the rest of this episode and the rest of our wild asides. I'm sure that's where we're at today.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find the lyrics to that. The ballad of Danny Greene.
Oh. Before we like deep dive into it, can I just say I was looking at pictures, and there's some pictures of him where I was like, I feel like these are not doing this man justice. And I also feel like public opinion of Danny Greene goes multiple ways. I feel
like it's 2 ways.
Yeah.
I feel like you loved him or you fucking hated him.
Yes. And I don't know. I think it's interesting.
I mean, yeah. It is a little bit of I feel like there's a bit of a Robin Hood vibe.
Very much so. Very much so. And you know, he likened himself to a Celtic warrior, and it's appropriate that we're talking about him in March because Danny Greene, obviously he's extremely Irish. He's an Irish American that was raised in the Cleveland area, lived in the Cleveland area, and is notorious in the Cleveland area. And we will tell you through his life and death kind of, you know, what happened with him and what happened with him in his life of crime, as well as kind of the aftermath. And we can even go into kind of the cultural relevancy he has. Like, There's still drinks and stuff named after his legacy. There's multiple movies that have been made on his legacy now, books that have been made, even a Law and Order episode that's been made. If you've made it on Law and Order, you've like really made it in life.
So before we get into specifics, I was also like listening to oh god, I don't remember what podcast it was. But they were sort of talking about Are you smelling me?
I had to burp.
Oh, I thought you were smelling me. I'm so worried. I was so sweaty earlier and I keep smelling myself, and Beth was like, "No, you don't stink." And then she just turned her super sniffer in my direction and very quietly like leaned closer to me. So I thought she was smelling me, but she was just burping instead of doing what I do, which is just belching right into the microphone and cutting it out later. But whatever I was listening to, they were talking about it, and they were kind of bringing up the fact that when you think about like the mob or the mafia, like most people think like Sicilians or Italians, and they usually think like, you think of like Don Corleone from The Godfather, and you think of like Dillinger, and you think of Chicago, and you think of New York. Most people do not think of Cleveland,
no,
and they don't think of the Irish,
no.
So that is like an interesting aspect of this tale of Danny Greene.
It is, because especially with the implications that what happened to Danny Greene and the criminal implications, it caused such a big wavelength of a reduction in crime across and not just in Cleveland, across the United States with the mafia. That's wild to me. Like the fact that we watch, especially nowadays, we watch these like romanticized movies of like Goodfellas or The Godfather, of like this family, and you're like, oh yeah, like these are still things that are predominant, but they're not. Like it's not the same today as it was back in like the 70s.
So
or
there
80s.
was a slightly more contemporary. There was a TV show that I loved it. It was called The Black Donnellys.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It only
that
aired
show.
for one season, and they never aired the last like 4 episodes of it. They canceled it. So the only way you could watch them was if you bought the DVD of the first season when it came out, and that was the only season again that came out at all. And it was about like an Irish family. This was in New York, but it was essentially like the sort of turf wars between like the Italians and the Irish, and it took place in like the early 2000s ish. Like I would say it aired before like 2010, I think. So even then it was like same shit but different packaging. Like there's like people who get in over their heads, and then they owe people a debt, and then you gotta go take care of something for someone, and then it's like, well, now I got info on you, so you gotta keep doing stuff for me. So it's interesting that these are like things that we're like fascinated by. Like people keep coming back to these kind of stories throughout time.
Like I said, I think there's just very much like there's a fascination with them, but I think it's because we have such iconic films that really romanticize, and TV shows like The Sopranos. Like we shouldn't knock The Sopranos, but we have like this media that is so culturally relevant and prevalent and iconic that I think people will always have kind of this romanticized view. So if you're like, hey, I want to make a TV show about like an Irish mob family, or like producers, say no more. What else do you want to do with it? Except that maybe you only get a season for it. Sorry.
Listen, the Black Donnellys were robbed. That show was so freaking good.
I mean, but that's like so many shows like where you're like, yes, we're gonna get a good, and you get one really good season, and they're like, yeah, no, we want to go a different direction.
It had such an incredible cast too, and like I feel like maybe it was just ahead of its time. Like if it had been on later, like maybe it would have had a better chance. if you're gonna go find this and you're gonna watch it, I'm gonna tell you right now, it ends on a cliffhanger and you're never gonna get an answer for it, and it's gonna haunt you for the rest of your life like it does me.
I mean, but even so, speaking of like other like even
it was 2007.
Even movie like one of my favorite, like what I watch because it takes place on St. Paddy's Day. The Boondock Saints, like that deals with like different mobs and mafias and stuff in like Boston and the Irish retaliation against that. I think people just really like the idea of what I guess violence, right? Like, you know
what? Here's the thing too, is I think it's also a little bit of like people always kind of like to see you like people who like buck the rules,
right? And
like get away with it, right, somewhat, but not like, you know, like we have all this like white collar crime and we're like, man, fuck those guys, stop
right,
cheating the system,
right? But
it's because like that's punching down. Like we like to see like the down punch up, right? And like, you know what, fuck you government, I'm not gonna pay taxes or whatever. I paid my taxes, NSA agent that's listening to this. I did it last week. Please don't come after me.
Also, like thinking of that, like yeah, like in The Departed, like people liked Jack Nicholson because even though he was obviously this crime lord, he was still giving back to his community. He kept like his little neighborhoods in check. He kept the riffraff out of there. He kept the small businesses going. He, you know, if you got in with him, you were made for life. Like he took care of you and your family. Am I justifying what he did? No. I mean, he was killing people.
People are dying, Kim. Look at this cast though. Oh, look, Jonathan Tucker. All right. We got a little J Tuck from a million things. What did we talk? Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, right? He was the brother.
So. Yes.
You got Tom Geary, who is Smalls from The Sandlot.
Okay.
You got Olivia Wilde.
Wow.
Billy Lush, who's been in like a million things. You would know him if you saw him. Michael Stahl-David from Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Kirk Acevedo, who's been in a million things. Peter Green, who has been in a million things, and I feel like he's always playing like some sort of scummy Irish mafia guy.
There's just certain people that have a certain look where you're like, yeah, I want them to be like...
Yeah, and then Kate Mulgrew played their mom. She played the Donnelly's mom.
So good.
Yeah, and so like I kept thinking of that show like when I was reading about Danny Greene, because it's kind of a similar thing. Like they like their dad was like involved with the mob, and then like he died, and like they always questioned like what happened with it, but you were supposed to keep your mouth shut and your head down. And like these four brothers are like adults now, and they gotta like deal with stuff that happens, and then they kind of inadvertently wage war and they gotta figure it out. And like, yeah. And the one, oddly enough, did a lot of drugs, like our cocaine avocado. So it's tying back in again. But yeah.
This is not an endorsement for cocaine avocados.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Is it so bad? I don't know. Not for me. I would have a heart attack. I'm way too high strung for that.
Same.
But I don't know.
Would it offset the cost of groceries? Maybe.
I mean, there is like a really slippery slope though of like, well, we told you avocados were good for losing weight.
God.
Anyway, so similar to the very rough, weird, rambling tangent about the Black Donnellys that I gave you, Danny Greene's life kind of began tragically as well.
God. So Danny Greene, born on November 14th, 1933. He's Scorpio. Actually makes a lot of sense. Like, as soon as I read, I was like, also would explain why I'm like a little fascinated with you. I was like, God damn it, Scorpios and your stupid like underlying attraction. Get out of here. I don't want it. We're done. I'm a married woman. Anyways.
Every person who's ever ruined my life has been a Scorpio.
We have two wildly different opinions on Scorpios. It's okay. So, yeah, he was born on November 14th. His dad was from Cleveland. His mom was from Pennsylvania. His mother died 3 days after she gave birth to Danny, and they didn't have a name for him, so they just called him Baby Greene, which is so sad. And the dad didn't really recover from that. Like, he was pretty upset that, you know, she died, and so he didn't.
You also have to remember this is also the early 30s, so it was like not men's work to raise the children,
right?
In terms of like social norms. So like he's probably just like, I don't know how to raise a fucking kid. Here, Catholics, take him.
So his dad drank heavily, and he did eventually get named, and he was named after his grandfather, Daniel John Greene. So he was named Danny Greene. But his dad lost his job, and so he shipped Danny off essentially and had his grandfather take care of him.
He also spent some time in a Catholic orphanage.
Yeah, like in Parma. Whew. Like this poor kid.
The land of pink flamingos and bowling.
So, yeah, after that, by 1939, so this kid is growing up in an orphanage or like with his grandpa. His dad finally starts dating. He marries a woman who is a nurse, and they start their own family, and then he does bring Danny to live with him. But this isn't going well. Danny doesn't like his stepmom, and he attempts to run away from home at the age of 6, which I'm just picturing like my tater tot essentially with like the little stick in the bag.
I did that once when I was probably about that same age, and I like packed like my little toy suitcase full of everything, and then I got to the corner and was like, oh, I'm not allowed to cross the street, and I turned around and went home.
I don't think I ever tried to run away from home, but I definitely did try to create the little rucksack with like, I don't know,
a bindle
with like the little, I think I used like a broom or something, like a kid's broom, and then like put that on there, like a little handkerchief, and you can't carry very much in there. Oh god, they made it look so enticing in cartoons. Like that's what I have to say about that. Like, why did they make that look so fun?
I found it. I found the Ballad of Danny Greene. It was at the end of my notes. I'll read it at the end.
So his grandpa took him in again because obviously Danny living with his stepmom and his dad wasn't working out. And then he lived with his grandpa and his aunt for the rest of his childhood, and then he lived in Collinwood. So he took advantage of his grandpa working nights and decided to roam the neighborhood. Well, I'm like, what's your aunt doing? Sleeping? Like, not watching you, obviously. So I'm not trying to say that, like, he was, like, a little juvenile delinquent, but he engaged in, like, activities that were, like, you know, not great for a little kid. He got into a lot of fights at school. He was bullied. The thing I read said that he had a dislike of Italian Americans at a very young age because he was bullied by them. I don't know. I was like, that seems.
I feel like this is also the sort of the era of like both people of both ethnicities at that time, like were essentially, I guess, newly considered like white in America. Like, other than that, it was like, oh, you're immigrants who are here to like welch off of everybody else and take all our jobs, right? And we don't want you here, which is how both places wow, you have bombs going off upstairs. Listen, Tater Tot, don't take Danny Greene too seriously. Yeah, like socially and economically, like these were two groups that were othered, and so
for a long time.
Yeah, so like, you know, you find ways to make do, and a lot of them found ways to make do with, you know, crime families. Right. And so it kind of makes sense that there's like a like the enemy, you know, kind of mentality between them. Like, it's like, oh, I have this stereotypical idea of who you are because of the stories I've been told growing up, but also like at least we're not the other guys.
Right. So he went to both, he went to a Catholic school, just at like an elementary school, and he was like really into Catholicism. I don't know how else to, he was really into Catholicism. This was like his kind of found, I would say probably found support group, not really family, because, you know, his dad died in 1959. So he died relatively young to Danny's life.
So Danny was like 26.
Yeah. And he...
God, I did that math so fast.
You did it fast. Yeah.
Who am I? My God, I'm freaking Will Hunting over here. Give me a blackboard and an equation.
And so, yeah, he had this like found, I would almost call it a found family, but like found support. And he had a big affinity for Catholic school. He was an altar boy. He went to church. He befriended the priests and the nuns. And he was extremely athletic. And he excelled at baseball. And he was also a basketball player. He wasn't good in school, but the nuns were like, he's good in sports. Let's keep him in school and keep him on the team. Because he was a better player.
Also, here's the thing, too, is like, you know, I have my separate beef with like all organized religion that I'm not going to get into, but also having been raised Catholic, I feel like nuns are also, though, because like when you go to Catholic school, like most of your teachers are nuns.
Right.
Or they're like deacons or they're the priest. And so the nuns are also kind of like the social workers of that. And so I think they probably were like, keep him in school and in sports, because otherwise he's gonna go run a fucking muck and he's gonna end up dead. So like let's save this kid as much as we can.
He then went to St. Ignatius, and
what up, biggies?
And this is when he really started fighting with like Italian Americans. And then he got expelled from St. Ignatius.
Well,
you can't be fighting all the time, right? But then he went to Collinwood High School, where he was really good in athletics. He was also a Boy Scout, but he got kicked out of that.
Not to make this all about the Black Donnellys, but there's a quote that I love from it. One of the characters named Joey Ice Cream, because he stole an ice cream truck when they were kids. He like would open every episode as though he was relaying a story about the Donnellys to you, because he was like, I grew up with the Donnellys, I know all about them. And so one of the episodes opens and he's just like, you know, there's this negative stereotype about the Irish that we're all just brawlers and drunks. And you know what? That makes me so mad. I just want to chug a beer and fight someone.
He eventually was also expelled from Collinwood High School due to excessive tardiness, though he tried to say, it's because I'm getting bullied all the time. I'm like, are you getting bullied, Danny? Or are you picking fights?
Who knows? Maybe a little bit of both. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
But after he got expelled, he was like, what can I do with my life? I'm going to go join the military.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. This is like perfect for him, right? Like, where else use that? You're athletic, you're prone to violent tendencies. Where else use that skill set?
Yeah. And this is, I think, where he kind of fell into that admiration of like the Celtic warrior as a stereotype. Like, he was fascinated by them. And they all of the stories about them were that they were very clever. They were very like quick and adept at battle, which is also like, those are archetypes of the Marines. And they were not afraid of anything. They weren't even afraid to die. Their only fear was that like they would be forgotten. So it was like, you should live a legendary life so that people will tell your tale long after you're gone. And that idea really appealed to him.
Like, just in the brain, just right there. Like a little amoeba. Just read about more brain amoebas in tap water.
You and your brain amoebas.
So
you gotta stop reading.
So scary.
Stop reading. Watch reality TV.
I can't.
Go watch 90 Day Fiancé.
Oh, God.
Watch Love at First Sight or whatever that is. Love Island.
I feel
Big
like
Brother.
I feel like if we can't name the reality TV,
There's too many. That's the thing. There's too many of them.
I watched Dr. Pimple Popper. That should
no. Because then they're just going to be like, it's in the danger zone. It's going to go in your brain. And then you're going to read about brain amoebas again.
No, it's the Triangle of Death. It's on your face.
Oh, because that's better than the danger zone? Excuse the fuck out of me.
Do you know which? I've learned so much about skin watching that show.
Disgusting.
There's a foot one, like a foot doctor. I can't. That's the line.
I don't know what my brain was trying to process when you told me that, but I was like, do they like squish feet until they explode? I didn't understand what the transition was. I was like, what, are you just like ripping toes off? Like, what's going on?
I don't watch it. I told you I can't watch it.
Oh, she's too good. She's too good for the foot show.
There's just so
Is
many.
it too far away from the triangle of power danger?
it's like people with like toenails that are like they're all curly cute and like
and they grow out
super
really long.
scaly, and like they're cutting into them with like knives, and like I think it's also like as a kid I had a plantar's wart on my foot. Like I was in 6th grade and I had to get surgery to get them removed because they were so deep in my foot. And so I
just repeatedly used those the freezer sticks at home where you were supposed to do it, then you were supposed to wait a while, and then it was supposed to fall off. I would just do like 5 of them in a row and then cover my foot with duct tape. Oh my god.
Yeah, I physically got them like cut out. Like I had 3 big hunks, and they like put them in like saline or something, and I watched them like float in a little cup, like a Dixie.
This is why you like that gross ass shit popping out of people's faces.
That doesn't bother me, but the foot stuff does. It's like, bleh, I can't do it.
Nasty.
Can't do it. Anyways, I don't even know where we were at. That's gross aside.
We were talking about how he was thinking about Celtic warriors, and you did a little doodle
amoeba,
with your fingers near your brain, and then we took a weird
brain
tangent.
Amoeba got me, man. Anyways, yes, he felt that he was at that point like a Celtic warrior. He was noticed for his abilities as a boxer and a marksman in the Marine Corps. He was transferred, they think maybe because of his behavior many times, but he rose to the rank of corporal, and he was also honorably discharged. So I'm like, if he was honorably discharged, that means
he's good. He didn't get kicked out.
He did his time of service. So then after the service, he's trying to find work, and he's trying to find work as a longshoreman on the Cleveland docks. And this is prior to the longshoreman work being unionized by the International Longshoremen's Association. So I had to look some of this stuff up.
The ILA.
Because I'm like, unions are good, right? And I'm like, okay. So unions are good. They do create workers' protections. We are pro-union here at the Lake Erie Library.
We are dirty socialists.
However, the ILA has a history of
corruption
and being aligned with racketeering and other criminal activity. I also, dear listeners, in case you were wondering, because you read that word a lot in association with the mob, and you're like, what does racketeering mean? And I will tell you. So racketeering, let me see. Racketeering is, according to Ohio law, because I was like, I'm just curious, no person employed by or associated with any enterprise that shall conduct or participate in directly or indirectly the affairs of the enterprise through a pattern of corrupt activity or the collection of an unlawful debt. So usually racketeering, it's a generic word for a lot of organized criminal activity. So that goes from gambling, that goes from money laundering, that goes for murder of an organized thing, that goes to collecting money that you unlawfully don't deserve. So like if like Britta's like, Beth, I want to borrow $1,000. I'm like, great. Now you owe me $1,500. You got to pay me or I shoot you. I don't know.
Yeah. Or, you know, like bookies or,
Yes.
specifically some of the things that, like Danny would get into with this connection is this is maybe like post his time with the ILA, but it was still similar activities, is that he would like intentionally create like a stop hold of like a good that was supposed to be delivered.
Yep.
And then would come in as like sort of like a, oh no, I'm a mediary between the union and like the receiver, and so like let me come in and you'll pay me a consultant fee to fix this problem that you don't know I created in the first place.
Yep. So Danny gets into the longshoreman line, and he decides that as he's like getting into it, he decides that he's really getting inspired by the Celtic warrior stuff. In 1961, the ILA removed the president of the local union. Danny was like, I'll be interim president.
Pick me.
And then afterwards, they had an election, and he won by like a landslide. And I was like, I've been through union elections before. Did he win by a landslide, or did he essentially tell everybody else, don't you even dare think about running? Or they could be like me in the union and be like, I'm not running. And then people are like, it's okay, I nominated you. And I'm like, God damn it. Every year I joke, no, I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to, don't pick me. And then there's people who are like,
every time I'm out, they pull me back in.
Yeah, they're like, no, Beth, I got you. You're nominated. Like, thank you. I'm glad you like.
I'm just gonna start anytime you have to deal with anything even remotely connected to our union. I'm just gonna start doing the like do 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 do. You come to me on this day when I am so sleepy to file a grievance. I do like that when Danny took over, he painted the union office like green. It's like green walls, green carpet, green everything. We're going full Irish.
They said it's thick green carpet, so like shag carpeting. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm trying to picture. I'm like, what shade of green though? Are we like doing like?
Oh, I'm assuming like a strong Kelly green. I'm assuming
green, and I'm just like, that's so much green.
I mean, let's be honest. It's probably more like that institutional green, because this is the 60s, 50s,
yeah,
60s?
61.
Yeah. So it's I mean, they were like, it's very Irish in there. He's painting everything. He's getting green carpet, but I mean, like, let's say the walls are like a nice Kelly green, and the carpet is like a deeper forest green, just to please our brains right now.
He was also
It is essentially your outfit.
Oh, thank you. He was known to drive a green car, wear green jackets, and often hand out green ink pens. I'm like, where are you getting green ink pens, buddy? I want some.
You got a guy. Hey, you need pens? I got a pen guy. Hold on. Oh my God, his shipment. He won't release the green pens. Can you believe it? He says that you didn't pay him. Did you pay him? He says you didn't pay him. Look, I'll handle it. Hold on. If you give me $5,000, I will take care of this for you.
$5,000 for pens. Good God.
It's a lot of pens. They're gonna throw him during the St. Patty's parade.
Oh my God, you get a pen in the eye. Ah, God.
Listen, for my old job, I used to have to be in the St. Patty's parade. I hated it. You couldn't get near the edges because people would like try to pull you off. I was a mascot, and they would try to like rip your hand off.
Oh my God.
I said they would try to pull you off. That's like a sex thing. I'm sorry I said that.
All right. So once he became president, he also raised the dues 25% and pushed workers to perform volunteer hours to assist in a building fund. Danny, you're a union man. You should know we don't do anything for free. Get out of here. That's not true.
That's not true.
I do a lot of stuff for free.
We don't get paid for union meetings.
It's true. So those who were in the union but refused to do the volunteer hours found themselves losing on work. So for those of you who are like, I don't even know what a longshoreman is, they're people that work on the docks to unload shipments of goods. And the way longshoremen work is if you're in a union, you as the union leader get to choose who you want to work the docks that day. And if you align yourselves with the union, you would find yourself getting more work or like the preferential like treatment or shipments and stuff like that. If you weren't on that, you would find yourselves either losing out on work or not getting picked every day to do stuff. Like you might get picked by somebody else that day. So it was beneficial to be in a longshoreman union. But it also depended on who was in charge of the union, because if you had someone who didn't like you, like maybe Danny didn't like you if you were Italian, you wouldn't be getting work as a longshoreman.
Or if he just didn't feel like you could do anything for him.
Yes. So in order to land a job as a longshoreman, many workers had to unload grain from the ships on a temporary basis and turn their paychecks over to Greene. He was saying he was collecting the paychecks to build a union hall, but most of the paychecks landed in Danny's bank account. So it begins.
Did you see also with the green pens, the green ink thing, where it was like the union bulletin was also printed in green ink?
No.
Yeah.
Listen, you know how I love color coordination though. So like I am a fan of the branding.
Mm-hmm. What year are you up to now in your notes? Are we at like 62, 64?
Maybe. Yes, okay. I think so.
Because the plain dealer did a little investigation of them twice. Yes. And that is when Danny and the union VP, Skip Ponickber, were indicted. The other guy was acquitted, but he ended up getting into law enforcement, so probably had some ties previously to that. But Danny ended up being convicted of embezzling more than $11,000. Buddy.
He also, prior to that, he was also, so the reason he got away with doing this for so long, because $11,000 was quite a bit of money back then, he became an FBI informant. Dear listeners can't see me do it, but I'm doing air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
He became an FBI informant, and this is my favorite, is he became an FBI informant, and he befriended Teamsters boss Louis Triscaro, who introduced Greene to Jimmy Hoffa.
Mm-hmm. He also teamed up with John Nardi.
Yes. So after Hoffa met Greene, he told Triscaro, stay away from that guy. There's something wrong with him.
Yeah, well, guess what, Jimmy? They got you, but they didn't get Danny.
What? Well, you'll find out. So yes, he became an informant. He went on embezzling people for a really long time. Finally gets convicted. Except after he gets convicted, like his prosecutors negotiated a settlement for a guilty plea in exchange for 2 misdemeanor charges and a $10,000 fine, and he only pays a fraction of it. Mm-hmm. So he pays like pennies on the dollar. Those poor longshoremen are never going to get their $1,500 or their $1,100 back. So it's just like, man, he's getting rolled around in poop and smelling like roses.
Yep, right. And then kind of like the way that everybody has assumed that he got away with a lot of the other stuff post his ties with the ILA is because of his time working with the FBI, informing on other people. So he managed to avoid serious prosecution. There was like a Cleveland cop who like desperately wanted to put him in jail, but they were like kind of friends. Like Danny, like this is much later obviously, but Danny's son played football and this guy was his football coach. So like that relationship blows my mind. Like it would be like if I was constantly like, how do I fucking get Beth fired? I can't stand her. I want her gone. All right, time to go to the Tater Tot soccer game and teach him how to play soccer. And then like had a beer with you after.
Yeah, it's a really roundabout way of getting
and
somebody.
He also,
like
Danny was like known also for like picking up the tab at a lot of places for people like that. Like a lot of, you know, law enforcement officers. He's like, oh, let me pay for your drinks. Let me buy you food. Look what a good guy I am. Like, you don't want to put me in jail. There's like a hysterical scene in the movie Kill the Irishman, which we'll talk about that book and that movie like later, I'm sure. But there's this really funny scene where they're like in the police station talking about like, did you hear about this Greene guy and what he's up to now? And he comes in with 3 guys and shopping carts and starts handing out frozen turkeys to everyone for Thanksgiving. And they're like, we were just talking shit about this guy and he just handed me like a 20-pound turkey. Like, I don't know what to do now.
I haven't seen To Kill. I need to see it.
It's
like,
good.
I would like to watch that one.
It's good.
So after he gets away essentially with his embezzling and whatnot, he joins another guild, the Cleveland Solid Waste Trade Guild, which this is hysterical.
The
to
Sopranos.
Me. This is so funny.
I'm in sanitation.
So for those of you who don't know, what this is this was an organization, essentially another union, and I'm putting that in very loose terms.
Yes, because technically he was not allowed to be involved with unions.
But so this was a guild, different than a union, but it's similar structure. And what they did was they essentially bullied people out of sanitation department routes, and they said, no, we're the #1 company to pick up people's trash. And they would undercut other companies and be like, oh, Britta, how much do you pay for your trash pickup? 50 cents a day? We'll pick up your trash for 40 cents a day, and you can just screw that other guy. And so they bullied people out of their routes to amass money and power, but in sanitation.
Mm-hmm.
And so he joins that supposedly to keep the peace.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is when Shonda Burns takes an interest in him.
Yes.
In the movie, Christopher Walken plays him.
Amazing. So he at this point he becomes friends, or not friends, but he starts working with Cleveland Mafia family underboss Little Frank Bercanto as muscle to enforce the mafia's influence over the garbage hauling contracts and other rackets. So here's the thing, like, while Danny is said to dislike, he worked with the mafia for a good chunk of his criminal underbelly career. But apparently he did, Bercanto regretted bringing Greene in May 1968 under orders. Greene was supposed to attack a black numbers man who was holding out protection money due. He was unfamiliar with the military type detonator, and he barely made it out of his car before the bomb exploded.
Well, the first step at being good at something is sucking at it.
That's true. Well, so he survived. He was thrown 20 feet from his car, but the hearing in his right ear was like messed up for the rest of his life. And he told the police about it and then said, I'll only trust professionals from here on out to do my car bombs. So that's also for those who don't do, they teach, right? So
But I guess he's not teaching somebody. Listen, I'm going to stand 20 feet away and I'm going to yell to you how to set it, okay? No, the other wire. What wire are you holding right now? No, don't show me. Tell me the color. Use your voice. Okay, no, don't touch that one. Okay, why are you still touching it? Pick the other one.
Oh, God.
You know what? Is he downstairs?
He's at the top of the stairs, I think.
It's very loud. I found this article from the Plain Dealer from November of 1971, which I think is roughly like where we are in the timeline-ish. Late 60s?
Yes, I was about 70, so yes, we're
okay.
here, but that's okay.
Well, I'm sorry if I'm jumping you. We'll circle back. But it's about, because we got on the car bombs, and this is from like November of 1971 because a Arthur Snepperger Jr.
That looks right to me.
Who was like an associate of Danny's.
Associate.
He died in an explosion outside of a gas station on Mayfield Road, which also all of this like organized crime in Cleveland started with like the Mayfield family, like the Mayfield Road family's like organized crime sugar war situation like years before this. So that is like the prime area for this activity. But the police said that Arthur might have been holding the bomb when it exploded because they knew he was very close to it when it went off. And this is like when Greene is like working with the Cuyahoga County Refuse Workers Association. They questioned him about it, and he was like, I don't know anything about the bombing or anything to do with like labor unions or stuff like that. Like, I'm out of that game. But Arthur was extremely close to the bomb when it exploded and might have been holding it. His body was found 10 feet from the east side of the gas station under heavy debris. Jeez. His car was parked, and this is in quotes, in the immediate area, and electronic detonating devices were inside his car. It happened at 12:30 in the morning and was heard more than a mile away.
Good Lord.
It caused heavy damage to the station and to 4 cars parked next to the station and broke windows in nearby homes.
Wow. Agents
of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division of the U.S. Treasury Department were there to assist in the investigation, and the T-men assist any local police force with limited faculties to investigate bombings. So this is like the first of many serious investigations into Danny involving bombings.
Right. Danny is associated with him, but like the target was not like Snepperger.
Wow. I should have looked out how to pronounce it.
He was an associate of Danny, so he was supposed to be planting the bomb, but he was not good with bombs apparently either.
Yeah.
Fredo, Big Mike Fredo, broke away from the Cleveland Solid Waste Trade Guild, and he didn't like Danny Greene, and he like protested Danny Greene bringing mob involvement and strong arm tactics to the refuse guilds. And because he was doing that, Greene was like, let's just make this go away.
Yes.
But Fredo lived, like he literally was not like in that area, so he lived, but they didn't have a direct way to like, they knew that Danny Greene was involved, but the police did not have a direct way to like.
That's Michael Fredo.
He looks like a Fredo. They didn't have a direct way to like connect Danny to the crime. So he was never charged for it. Sergeant Kovac was told that Greene had pushed the radio detonator killing his associate, but they didn't have any direct proof. So they never officially solved the case. But it didn't matter because by November of 1971, so same year that this bombing happened, Fredo was shot and killed at Cleveland's White City Beach.
Yes, near like 140th.
Yes. So Greene was arrested for this and interrogated, and he admitted to killing Fredo, but he claimed it was self-defense.
There's a great scene in the movie of this where he's like minding his own business, working out outside in a park. He's doing like push-ups, and he looks up and this car is like swerving down the street and it jumps the curb and they're trying to run him over. And he just takes off running.
So he said that Fredo fired 3 shots. So he's like jogging, Fredo fires, he pulls out a gun and I'm like, dude, I'm just imagining you minding your own business, working out. So imagine you're wearing.
You gotta stay strapped, Beth.
Where are you?
In the band of those track pants.
God, I would be so afraid of getting some bits blown off. Oh, God.
I mean, I think you're pretty aware of it. A gun's kind of heavy.
Yeah, it is. So, anyways, he has his gun. He fires back. He kills Fredo. They are like, yeah, that's legit. He gets off on the crack. Like, he doesn't get charged. They're like, yeah, that's an okay use of self-defense.
But yeah, the whole thing with Arthur as well, where they were like, oh, well, we found like the detonators in his car and he was like carrying it. The speculation then became later that Danny like sent him to go set the bomb, quote unquote, and then detonated it to get rid of him.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Greene, so he also said that prior to that, they found evidence that, you know, this was true, so he was released. They also found out later that Fredo was armed and had an opportunity to kill Greene several weeks prior. And this is really wild. And during their partnership, Greene and Fredo had become so close, they named their sons after each other. Again, like the soccer, like the enemy of the enemy is my friend. Like, that's wild.
yeah. Well, and that's, you know, it's a similar thing too. Like, we've mentioned Shonder Burns, like, briefly. Like, we'll get into him in a minute. But, like, it's the same thing. Like, the relationship was good until it wasn't. And then it was really bad.
Right. So Greene just minding his business, working out. And
they, you know, at this point, too, I think it was 1968 when the first time somebody threw a bomb in his car while he was driving, but he, like, survived. So this is just wild to me to think of, like, you know, like in a movie when all the, like, the Avengers are wrecking the city and you're like, but what did, like, the people do after that?
Right.
Like, thanks, Captain America. I don't have a car now because you jumped on it.
Right.
Like, or you threw an alien into my apartment and now I don't have a wall and I have to move. Like, who's going to pay for this collateral damage? But to, like, what if you were, like, his neighbor and, like, every day, like, people are, like, running through your azaleas trying to run him over with their car, or, like, you know, you're just outside watering your flowers and, like, a bomb goes off across the street and he's just like, that's not my car, assholes! Like, it's like, yeah, that was my car. Thanks, Danny.
Well, and he has a wife and kids, too. Like, he does get married and he has 3 kids. And at one point, he does live separately from them so that, like, he can protect them.
Well, because before the kids were born, they tried to blow up one of the places they lived, and he and his girlfriend, because they weren't married yet, got out. So, like,
but can you just imagine being his, like, you know, coming with the territory of, like, falling in love with this Irish guy, this, like, well-built, like, Scorpio energy Irish guy that, like, hey, I come with, like, a death note. So yeah, you're gonna have to deal with me getting, like, attempted murdered, you know, a couple times a year. It's fine. It's fine. It'll be okay. But anyways, this is my favorite My favorite attempt of murder is when he is again jogging on White City Beach and a sniper is on the beach and they shoot at him. And they had him several shots from several hundred feet away with a rifle. Instead of ducking, Greene pulls out his revolver. So I'm just imagining, in my mind, he's wearing like the little track
you
shorts
gotta
from
stay
the 70s.
strapped. See, I'm picturing the like snap tearaway Adidas pants.
It's even better.
With like a racing stripe up the side.
Oh,
he just like rips it off and pulls it out of his like tighty whitey.
And he's like running. So I'm just picturing like him running in these tiny track shorts, like these exercise shorts with the gun and just like running with the revolver. And for some reason, because to me, beach shorts, shirtless, like, so he's carrying it in his shorts and that's it. Running towards the sniper, shooting back at him, like, you know.
The weirdest episode of Baywatch ever.
So the sniper fled, was never positively identified. The investigators, they looked into this and they said that this was an attempt of the murder contract left by Burns. So Burns is again, we should probably talk about him.
So Chandra Burns was a mob enforcer. He was not actually, he did not want to be like a part of any like specific mob. He was not one of the Italian families. He was actually a Jewish man. And he was an enforcer for the mob. And so Danny started working as, you know, muscle for him as another enforcer. And like I said, for a while, like the relationship was good. Like he was like his right-hand guy. He was getting stuff done. But then there came this time where there was, I don't know clearly what the amount of money is or what the exact like scenario was, but there was essentially like money loaned for some kind of business venture. This money then got caught up with like, you know, like the people who were running the money to collect whatever.
Right.
They got caught up by the cops. They get like hemmed up by the police and put in jail. So now this money and this product are like in limbo. They have not been delivered.
Right.
They're out money. So then it comes into question between the two of them. Burns tells Danny, you still owe me that money, so you got to figure out how you're going to get me that.
Right.
Danny says, that's not my problem. Your guys got caught running the stuff with the money. That sounds like it's a you problem.
Right.
You figure out where to get the money. Right. I'm done with this. Which then soured their relationship so badly that this led to Burns putting a contract out on him, which is where Kill the Irishman, the title, comes from. So,
it was like a $25,000 like hit. It wasn't like, I was like, I don't know, is $25,000 a lot in 70s money? Well, I guess with the rate of inflation, it probably is like a substantial amount.
Yeah.
Greene, again, so after this attempt with the sniper on the beach, and it's not Baywatch, but I like to pretend it is, Greene then moved to Collinwood by himself, where he rented an apartment to keep kind of his wife and his 3 kids, which, by the way, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm like, so you got married, you had 3 kids. When did you have time for this? What does a 9-to-5 day look like for a mob boss?
It's not a 9-to-5 job.
I don't know. What does your day look like? I want to see a get ready with me with Danny Greene. Like, what do you like?
He goes to like a restaurant. He sits down. He has a nice meal. He takes his meetings all day with people. He goes and meets other people at other locations.
He's gotta have time to work out. He's obviously staying in shape. That's when they keep trying to assassinate him.
You know, but like there's no like 9 to 5. The whole point is you can't have a routine.
I guess so. Yeah, that's true. I'm just trying to picture it. Like, they didn't have cell phones back then, so it's like maybe you can call Danny at his apartment and be like, "Hey, husband, how's it going? You alive? Just checking." Maybe you won't. My favorite quote about him comes from journalist Ned Whelan, who wrote, "Imagining himself as a feudal baron, Greene supported a number of destitute Collinwood families, paid tuition at Catholic schools for various children, and, like the gangsters of the 20s, actually had 50 20-pound turkeys delivered to needy households on Thanksgiving. He often picked up restaurant tabs for friends, neighbors, and acquaintances, and left generous tips. He also evicted a bookmaker who ran out of a small Waterloo business, and he kept a local bar in order by making personal visits. So it was somewhat routine.
Yeah.
And then Hell's Angels moved into Collinwood, and he visited their headquarters with a stick of dynamite, and he threatened to light it and throw it in their clubhouse if they didn't keep quiet and settle their butts down in Collinwood. I'm just like, you know what? I get why people liked him, though, because I'm like, to the people in Collinwood, he was not a bad man. He was giving back to his community, but that's how they get you. That's how the mafiosos get you. They show you how good life can be if you just let them do all this terrible stuff.
Here is this turkey for you to look the other way.
Yes. I'm sorry about your azaleas. Please take this 20-pound turkey as my condolences.
Oh, now I just found my notes. My notes are a mess. I just found this in my notes later about Arthur Snepperger, is that he probably detonated that bomb because he thought that he was a mole and that he was giving information to Fredo, and so he's getting rid of him.
There's an article I found also about talking about this, and they said even with the wealth of information we have, which we have quite a bit, that Danny Greene, there is stuff that we still don't know about the interactions Danny Greene had with the Italian mob of Cleveland. And there's just things that we'll never know because, one, the people involved are dead. Two, the people that are alive that were involved aren't talking. Or three, the people that are alive that aren't did talk are now in jail or in witness protection, so they're not going to say anything further. So there's just stuff that we don't know within the realm that's of the interactions that Danny Greene's had, that we truly don't have 100% of the scope of everything that went on.
Yeah, and then there's also the added aspect too that he was running his own numbers and rackets and things like that of stuff that he was doing. And then when Burns went to prison, when Shonda Burns went to prison, he took over Burns' territory,
right,
and started running his stuff. And then he was like, hey, maybe I should stop dressing in all green so people know who I am everywhere I go, and started dressing like a normal dude and doing this stuff. So he's got his hand in all these different little cookie jars and things. He's pissing off all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
He feels that he is he cannot be killed because he is a Celtic warrior.
Right.
People have tried to blow him up multiple times. People tried to shoot him, and every single time he comes out of it unscathed.
Right.
He straight up told the cops, I killed that guy, and they let him go on manslaughter.
Right. They were like, that's self-defense. That's okay. And it's about this time when he starts forming his own crew called the Celtic Club, which is a cool name for Irish gangsters. His main enforcers were Keith the Enforcer Ritson. I'm like, that's a terrible nickname, just saying.
Sounds like a wrestler.
Kevin McTaggart, Brian O'Donnell, Danny Greene Jr. I'm like, oh no, Danny Greene Jr.
No, that's him, isn't it?
I assumed it's not.
No, it said his main enforcers. You're right.
Billy McDuffie, Elmer Britton, Ernest Ted Waite, Art Snep, well, he dead, and then Jimmy Icepick Sterling. And it's when he starts this, the Celtic Club, he also allies then with John Nardi, who was at this time, he's a part of the Cleveland crime family, so he is a mafia person. But he's an underling, and he had been pushing for a while he was trying to overthrow the Cleveland Mafia because he wanted so badly to be in charge of it. So he was like, well, if I can't get it, then I'm gonna try to overthrow it. So again, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. So him and Danny Greene become real good friends.
Mm-hmm. Which is unfortunate for Nardi, because that kind of seals his fate.
Yes. I actually feel like that's a good place to stop at this episode. Unless you think we should keep going.
I think that's fine.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that's a good stopping point. Next week, we will pick up where we left off. You'll learn more about the Celtic Club. You'll learn more about the Celtic Club. You'll learn more about the hits out on Danny. And
I thought you were just going the hits. Like the hits of Top 40 Radio.
Casey Kasem here.
Danny Boy slaps.
And
you guys know some Tura Lura Lura? Let's go. Put your hands up in the air.
Oh, God. I was about to say, like, Dexy's Midnight Runners? What? That's, like, the only song I know that uses, like,
Tura Lura Lura, Tura Lura Lie.
We won't get yelled at for that, right?
It's old.
It's old. It should be, like, in the domain. Anyways, join us next week for more on the infamous Danny Greene. And we hope that you guys celebrated responsibly for any St. Patrick's Day shenanigans, and that, you know, the next time we see you, I don't know, you'll be safe, happy, and not hungover. But if you are hungover, whatever. I don't mind that you're like listening.
God, I'm sorry. This is probably the most grating thing to you right now. Do you want to hear my Gilbert Gottfried impression?
So, once again, thank you to our spooky sponsor.
Yeah, hey, thanks.
And, yeah, we'll see you next week, and stay spooky, friends.